What's up, guys? Alright, so, okay, you're trying to quit and you say, should I replace weed with CBD? Okay, so, and I really can't say yes or no for you personally, but I'll share my personal story with that. And okay, so when I first started my journey of trying to quit weed, it was during the rise. Okay, Charlie. It was during the rise of CBD. Okay, so I'm sure if you're watching this, you know what CBD is. It's basically weed without the THC, or a very low amount of THC. So I said, okay, I should try to replace it with a more natural, not as potent, taking away the actual high properties that I get with weed. So, and it was quite convenient. They had a lot of sites that were popping up that you could just buy CBD, or what they call at the time hemp flower, that looked just like weed, smelled just like weed, but it didn't get you high. So maybe I'm not qualified to truly speak on this because I didn't try a whole lot of varieties. I tried a couple and I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I'm gonna tell you, it actually gave me, again, it looked like weed, it smelled like weed, it sort of tastes like weed, didn't have the same kick, but it gave me a headache when I smoked it. And I looked up, was there like a common side effect of CBD? And I couldn't get a straightforward answer. Some said yes, possible. Most people said you can actually, you're more likely to get like a vomiting side effect. I never got vomiting, but I did get a headache. And of course, I didn't get really high. Or I didn't get high at all. So I quickly realized that wasn't going to work for me. And it didn't work for me because, first of all, I was trying to, hold on, guys. Okay, CBD wasn't for me because I'm not a fan. If you're trying to quit any type of vice, weed specifically, it's not a good idea to try to replace it with another vice. Now, I do agree you can replace it with something healthy like a new diet or exercise or a new hobby or a new business venture. But to replace weed with alcohol, to replace weed with cigarettes, to replace weed with anything else wouldn't be a good idea. To just replace one addiction for another addiction. Now you might say CBD, okay, it's a more healthy alternative than weed himself. I don't think so. First of all, I quickly, and I didn't replace it with CBD oil. I actually tried to replace it, tried to vape weed itself. I'm not a fan of oil, but I did try to vape the weed buds. I didn't care for vaping. I'm a fan of, I like to actually smoke. And I guess maybe I had a tobacco addiction as well. I prefer to smoke cigars than actually vape. So vaping didn't really help me kick my habit. I just quickly went back to smoking cigars. But also with the CBD, I didn't want to do CBD oil. I wanted to smoke it. And if I'm gonna roll a cigar and roll some bud, I need to get high. That's stupid to smoke something without getting high. It's just like I don't see the point in non-alcoholic beers. If I want a beer, I want a beer. If I'm not gonna, I think non-alcoholic beers are stupid. But okay, if I'm gonna smoke weed, I'm gonna smoke weed, not weed with no effects. And I think also if you are a person who has smoked weed and you're trying to go back to CBD, I don't think it's going to help you because the effects are not going to be potent. You know, smoking weed for a long period of time, you're used to the most potent effects. You are used to the THC. You are used to the effects at its highest level, whereas CBD is a much lower dose. So if you're a person that has never smoked, has never really smoke weed like that, CBD may actually work for you, but somebody who's been smoking for a long period of time, that's just not, just trying to drink. You've been drinking straight vodka for 10 years and you're trying to pater down and drink a Smirnoff Ice. You're going to say, you know, just screw this. Give me the vodka. So it's best to probably just quit altogether. I found that trying to replace weed with something so similar just really was just a stumbling block to just make me go back to smoking weed. I think if you want to quit marijuana, you have to quit altogether. You can't come up with a similar alternative that may make you quit that. You know, I've heard that sometimes people that try to quit cigarettes, they'll try to buy a different brand they don't smoke to make them actually not care for cigarettes themselves. And I've heard in a lot of cases, they just develop appetite for that different brand. So I think it's the same with weed. And like I said, myself, I'm not going to say I develop an appetite for CBD. I just said, you know, screw it. I'm just going to go back to smoking weed itself. And also, like I said, I got headaches when I did CBD. Now, I know it's probably not the same for all people. But for me, I found it to be more damaging than good. Like I said, I still was in the habit of smoking, so that I didn't kick the actual habit of doing what I was doing. I wasn't getting high, so I'm smoking without the benefits. It's actually giving me a headache, so what's the point of me actually trading this out for CBD? Again, we also want to not trade a vice for a vice. If you want to kick a vice, it's best to just quit altogether, not try to hang on to something similar that's just going to make you hang on to the former vice itself, and you have a higher chance of going back to the very thing that you're trying to quit. Now, I did quit weed altogether before, or during the time they came out with the whole Delta 8 thing, the whole CBD with a higher percentage of THC, which I have heard is quite similar to weed itself. And I would say, you know, that was tempting as well, because I was like, okay, maybe I can just use a Delta 8. But again, if I'm going to smoke, then I'm going to smoke real weed. Also, I wasn't positive, I wasn't sure about the safety of Delta 8 since it was new, since it was created in the lab. I do think a lot of these new strains of weed, of CBD, Delta 8, whatever, that's created for a more commercial use, are linked more to health issues, linked more to things from seizures to vomiting to, again, headaches to nausea, in especially like teens and young adults. And something like, they say CBD, like I said, is a common symptom that some people do get nausea. That's actually kind of crazy, because usually people who are ill, they smoke weed to get over their nausea. So something that could give you nausea. And I said I'll just quit altogether. So if you're thinking about trading CBD for weed, if you have tried it, what has been your experience? Have you find it useless, that you're just, you know, using the same thing with lower effects? Or could you be a person that's actually helping you get rid of the habit? Are you smoking or vaping less since you're eating CBD, which you don't get the same effects? Has it been more of a tool that help you quit altogether? Although I did, you know, go back to smoking weed in that process, I could possibly say it was a tool that still helped me quit altogether. Although I didn't quit immediately after that, it was a step in my journey that still led me down this path of complete sobriety from marijuana. So guys, I would like to hear your experiences. I would like to hear your thoughts about it. Would you trade weed for CBD? If you have, has it worked for you? Has it not? Until next time, guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would like to hear what you got to say. And remember, we are all in this together. What's up, guys? Today I want to discuss how the Sabbath helped me quit weed. And I'm not here to try to convert anybody or by the way, if you're new here, my name is Chaz. This is Charlie. But I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not here to promote any type of religious preference. I'm just sharing my journey and on how my spiritual journey coincided with my journey of quitting marijuana. So again, the Sabbath helped me quit weed. So you say, oh, what is the Sabbath? In the Bible, just making it simple, we have the 10 commandments. The fourth commandment is to honor the Sabbath, and it is the seventh day. Of course, Christianity has converted today to Sunday, which Sunday is not the seventh day. Sunday is the first day. It has never in Scripture been ordained that Sunday has taken the place of the Sabbath, which is the seventh day, which is Saturday. And okay, so and the Sabbath is much more than just going to church. It's a day of rest. You cease from work, you cease from house chores, you cease from buying, from selling, from doing your own worldly pleasures. So it's a day to just relax, ease your mind, ease your soul, get closer to God. So about 7 years ago, when I actually decided to start observing the Sabbath, I chose, of course, to rest the seventh day, and I chose to not smoke weed on that day. And again, I am a firm believer of, not a firm believer, but in my personal journey, it was easy for me to quit weed by slowly taking it out of my life, smoking less and less. So when I finally actually make the decision to stop, it was much easier because I got used to not smoking every day, all day. So Charlie is killing me. He's probably, I'm just waiting for him to actually poop so I don't want him to mess me up. But anyway, okay, so when I first started the Sabbath, it took a lot to get used to. It was hard to just sit down and not do anything. Again, like Sunday church is you go to church for an hour, you go out to eat, and you still pretty much do everything you do every other day of the week. It's not an actual rest. But for our bodies to actually take a rest from work, from doing our daily chores, not being concerned with the dishes, with cleaning up, but just resting, that actually took work for me to get used to. And of course I figured, if I'm resting from my worldly desires, smoking weed should definitely be one of them. Now, I don't believe in pseudo spirituality where God just spoke to me and said, oh, Chaz, quit smoking weed, and I just put it down one day and never looked back. With true biblical principles and concepts, there is a practical application to it. So I do think God played definitely a hand in me quitting weed, but it started with simply me observing the Shabbat, the Sabbath, which I just simply did not smoke on Saturday. And that was a lot, 7 or 8 years ago, me doing that, not smoking for one day, that was a pretty hard feat. But actually, it wasn't hard. It actually allowed me to realize, okay, I could go a whole day without smoking and be okay. Oh, hold on, guys. Do you think it's time for you to quit cannabis? Well, I encourage you to make that transition to a new life, free from the chains of weed addiction. It's up to you to make that change, but sometimes we may need a little guided help. So I created a 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. This journal helps you go through a 30-day process to create a new life. I am a strong believer of people helping themselves, but without being told what to do like a child. But we do need to be steered in the right direction sometimes. Each day focuses on a thought or idea for that day and prompts you to write down your own thoughts and your own reasons. This will help you understand yourself and your addiction. By the end of the 30 days, you will see a clear path on how to create a new life of marijuana sobriety. If you need the motivation to take control like I did, please visit Amazon to purchase the 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. Your future self will thank you. Okay, guys, I'm back. Yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and act like, I read the Bible one day, realized I shouldn't smoke weed, and I immediately quit. No, I'm not going to sit here and be fake. It took me a while. Even with me reading the Bible every day, it took me years to actually quit smoking weed. And I did struggle with that, really contemplating, am I really on a real spiritual journey? Have I changed? Am I a new person? I feel new. I have new concepts. I changed a lot of areas in my life, but I still cannot quit smoking weed. But there still was a change and was a practical application with the Sabbath that allowed me to realize that I actually could go a complete day without smoking weed. So again, I do believe it's easier for us to give up weed if we slowly take it out of our life, inch by inch. And there are some people who can do cold turkey, and in a sense, it's all cold turkey because eventually you do have to just stop. You can say it's all cold turkey, but it was easier for me to go cold turkey by me having the mindset that I know for a fact I can't survive without getting high from day to day. I think cold turkey is just so more abrupt if you're used to smoking like every single day, all day, and it just stopped. The journey can be hard, and it's a lot easier for you to actually fall back into smoking again. So the Sabbath, again, allowed me to take that rest from everything in the world, including weed, and that gave me a realization that I could actually go without weed. And years into it, of course, I decided to go other days without weed. It went from, not only the Sabbath, but I would go a Monday without weed and go Tuesday without weed. I would smoke maybe like once or twice during a week. But I think the Sabbath gave me the push, gave me the inspiration to know that I could slowly wean myself off of marijuana. So again, guys, this is not a spiritual conversion. I would like people to read the Bible. I would like people to get a spiritual foundation. I do think it makes the journey a lot easier. Just not in just this and anything in life. It makes life easier if you do have a spiritual foundation. Some people say, oh, I don't believe in man-made religion, yada yada. I don't believe in religion either. I do think religion itself is man-made. The Bible is not. But whatever more, I do think that a spiritual foundation helped me on my journey. And again, this is not a conversion, but I will say the application that it provided me to go a day without smoking. I challenge you to take a day and not smoke, to take a day and cease from weed and see where you are, see how your mind reacts to it, see how your body reacts to it, and you'll probably be pretty surprised with yourself. Then you say, okay, if I can go one day, I can go 2 days. If I go 2 days, I can go 3 days. If I go 3 days, I can go 4 days, and so on. So you know what? I don't have to smoke weed. I don't have to depend on weed. So, tell me what you guys think. Do you think that do you still rather just go cold turkey, go abruptly, or do you feel like starting with just not smoking for one day will prompt you to make consistent changes in your life to eventually you don't actually depend on weed at all anymore? Until next time, guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would like to know what you think about this. Until next time, guys, remember, we are all in this together. What's up, guys? It's Chaz and Charlie. Today I want to briefly discuss the cycle of Mary Jane. And talking about how I easily fell into the cycle of being a daily cannabis user. So when I first started smoking, I started when I was 16 in high school, and it started kind of as a once every weekend thing, maybe a once every other weekend thing, and then it slowly picked up until maybe I'll do it. And it started with my best friend. He went to a birthday party, and he was like, "Do you smoke?" And I'm like, "Yeah," which I was lying. I had not smoked ever before then, but I lied. I'm like, "Yeah, I smoke." So he, on the other hand, had experience with smoking. So he had a bag, smoked for the first time, and it was cool. Typical high school smoke session, but it didn't start. I just smoked every other weekend, and it went to a every weekend type of thing. And then slowly after that, I wouldn't say slow, I would say quickly after that, within a few months, it'll be during a weekday, and I was like, well, maybe I can smoke a little half a joint or something during a week. So I went to every weekend, and maybe once or twice doing a week type of thing. And then before I knew it, by the time I was 18, it was an everyday thing. And we think that marijuana's a drug that we never like to say that we're actually addicted to it. We don't just say weed addiction is not really a thing. I can stop when I want to. It's not an issue. I'm not on crack. I'm not an alcoholic. It's just weed. Now, agree that weed is, I would say, the lesser of all evils. It's not like alcohol. It's not like hard drugs. Usually nobody actually dies from smoking weed. But because it's the lesser of the evils, it's actually easier to fall into the cycle of addiction, because we play it down so much. We'll say it's not a big deal, and before we know it, we smoke every day, all day, and we have no intention of stopping. And when something has full control over your day, and you feel like you can't survive without it in a day's time, you are addicted. So it was to the point to where I would say, now I started smoking when I was about 16. I didn't stop till I was about 34. So we talking about over 15 years of just hardcore weed smoking. So at my height, I would wake up, smoke. Had to smoke before I eat breakfast. I would hold on, guys. I would wake up, smoke a blunt, eat breakfast, because I had to smoke before I eat breakfast, smoke after I eat, before I go to work or go to class, smoke another blunt, get to work, smoke on my lunch break, get home, smoke another blunt, Then at that time I would probably like eat dinner, and then I'm smoking another blunt, maybe 2. So on average it was between like 5 and 7 blunts per day, and that was a daily cycle that I was so hard to get myself out of. So fast forward, I decided to wing myself off. I went from laying off weed once a day to smoking every other day to maybe once or twice a week. But although I'm a fan of the winging myself off method, I still fell into a cycle of addiction. I was still in a cycle of I'm having to smoke at a certain time, or I can't go without so many days without getting high. So although I encourage people to go for the winging off method, you still can easily fall into the cycle of addiction. You still can fall, although we should praise ourselves for, if we have cut back half of what we smoke, give yourself a pat on the back, and then continue to strive towards getting it more out of your life. Because the longer you stay in that certain cycle, you can easily go back. So at times where I would, let's say, smoke, cut down to 2 to 3 times per week, the longer I stayed in a particular cycle, I would slowly start to smoke more. Although I didn't go back to my full blown out smoking 5-6 blunts a day. At certain points I would get to where I'm going 2 or 3 weeks where I've smoked every day. Now it may not be maybe like a half a blunt or a piece of blunt, but fact remains I'm getting high every day. So the cycle of addiction you can easily fall back into. So I encourage you, if you're on your journey, if you're trying to quit, don't let the cycle of smoking sneak up on you. Don't let it be a continuous thing, because before you know it, you'll be back smoking every day, all day. So on your journey, I'm curious to know if maybe you're trying to quit. If you have started to wing yourself off, have you slowly fell back into a cycle of addiction? Or has it been easier for you? It differs from person to person. So like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would like to get your feedback, your opinions on how your journey is going. Until next time, like, subscribe, share, and remember, guys, we are all in this together. What's up, guys? It's Chaz, it's Charlie. Today I want to discuss the idea of low value men depending on weed. And first, when I say low value men, I know with the whole red pill, blue pill thing, the idea of a high value man is, the guy who earns 6 figures and drives Bugattis and is basically Andrew Tate. But just for the sake of this conversation, we're gonna actually redefine what is considered a high value man or what is a low value man. So, me personally, I think when you say high value, most men aren't going to be an NBA player, aren't going to be an Andrew Tate, aren't going to be this, as they say, the 1%er. But a high value man is I would say, a guy who's a good father, who is a good husband, who is still successful in his business. Not saying he is a millionaire, but he can make a pretty good living versus whether he has his own business or he works for someone else's business. But this idea of a well-rounded man who isn't stunted in his potential. So what is a low-value man? A guy who isn't a good husband, who isn't a good father, who sits on the couch all day and eats Cheetos and smokes weed and watches porn and plays video games and doesn't have a good drive about himself. So now that we define that, you know, guys who depend on weed, does it make you low value, or does low value guys depend on weed? And so we're in a time of society where men are weak as ever. We're pretty at a weak state. We're very effeminate, if you say. Hold on, guys. Okay, we're back, guys. I hate the fact that dogs have to poop when they walk. You're a dog. Do this too. Anyway, we're in a state now where guys are effeminate as ever. We are lazy. We don't like to work. We don't like challenges. We don't like to talk to girls. And we all, I'm not saying everybody should be this done one and just be this overachiever, but I mean, men now don't do anything. We depend on porn. We depend on video games. We depend on all these outside factors, and we don't want to take any action for ourselves. I'm sick of dogs. But yeah, we don't want to take any action to better ourselves. We have become so dependent on these things that we're not actually being the full potential of the man that we can be. Now again, as we grow up in this world, first of all, I mean, me personally with men don't want to work. I have never seen such a lazy group of individuals ever in my lifetime. And I'm a millennial. I think millennials are lazy too, but the ones after the Gen Zs, I mean, they have taken to the next level. We feel very entitled. We feel like we should get paid more than what we're actually worth. And we're just lazy. We're slouchy. We don't like to keep ourselves up. I can go on and on. Men are goddamn lazy. So how does weed play into this? So we're in a generation that, of course, weed is at its highest use than ever. You know, and a big part of why people use, men specifically, use weed, and not just men, just anybody, period, that smokes weed. You know, we say we use it for anxiety. I think anxiety is the biggest excuse for people to continue to do things that they do always. And saying I have anxiety is like saying I have 2 feet. I breathe out of my nose and my mouth. I breathe in air. Everybody has anxiety. Anxiety is not an illness. It's not a disease. It's not abnormal. Everybody has it. We get anxiety all day, from small things to bigger things. It's everybody has it. And we tend to use weed because they say it eases our anxiety. The problem with that is, why are you having anxiety? What are you feeling? Oh my God. I'm going to stop doing these walks with Charlie because all I do is pick up shit the whole walk. But anyway, what are you having anxiety about? What are you at ease about? You know, rather than try to smoke our ways out of the anxiety, why not we find out why we're having anxiety and try to solve it? You know, anxiety in most cases is our body telling us it needs to change something. It needs to take heed to something. And we like to ignore that because it may seem hard to us. And men specifically, we have gotten into the state where we don't like to do anything hard. We don't like to challenge ourselves. We don't like to excel to the next level because it may take a little effort. But newsflash, that's what comes with being a man. We want to be considered this man, whether we want to be considered a man at work or the man at home, but we don't want to actually take any responsibility of being a man, because ultimately we are the head of our households. So when you're the head of a household, you're the head of a company, no matter of the outside forces, of the internal factors going on, whether it's your children, your wife, your employees, it's gonna fall back on you. It's your fault. So let's put on our big boy britches and take responsibility and stop being a pansy. So we get into the habit of using weed as an scapegoat to not try to be our ultimate selves. I would find myself when I would go through anxiety or just want to get high or feel stressed out or get into a argument with my wife or feel like, I'm at unease about today, and I would smoke, and smoking would more so just make me reframe the thought in my mind. And there's nothing wrong with reframing the thought in your mind, but in turn, I wouldn't do anything to actually change it. I wouldn't make an effort to actually make a difference. Whereas we should learn to reframe certain things in our mind depending on what it is. But I think with the absence of weed, you realize you have to make an actual change in your life, make and change yourself to actually get a desired outcome or a better resolution. When you smoke weed and you get high, you say, oh, well, it's not that bad, and life is okay, and the trees are nice, and the sky is blue, and I'm hungry, and a cheeseburger sounds good right now, so it's not a big deal. But did that really solve anything? Did you take the next step to make a change in your life? And before, people will say, they'll come in and say, well, I'm a high performer at work. I have this, I can do that, and I smoke weed. Weed doesn't affect me like that. And I think the key word I want to stress on this conversation is men who depend on weed. If you smoke weed every now and then, just to celebrate or to let loose, it's not a consistent factor in your life, okay, it's not a big deal. But men who depend on weed, who need weed on a daily basis, have to smoke all day, every day, just to cope with life, let's put the blunt down and better ourselves. Let's embrace the anxiety and make an actual change, and not always look for something to pacify us, because ultimately we just pacifies our mind. We like to say that we can think deeper and have a better understanding if we smoke. And I've been there, I've done that, I've said these things, but ultimately when I quit weed, I made so many changes in my life that I didn't even realize that weed was even connected to. And if you can do okay things while you're still depending on weed, imagine what you can do if you didn't depend on weed. So don't hit me with the, I can do all this and smoke weed. No. If you depend on weed, you're hiding something, you're trying to pacify yourself, and you can always do better. Point blank. And as men, I'll go back to, we don't want to do anything hard. We don't want to do anything that challenges us. So if you've been smoking for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, myself, I was smoking about a good 15 years before I stopped. That can be hard to actually make that change and say, I'm not going to smoke at all, ever. That does take persistence. It does take a little bit of work. It does take retraining your brain. And it can be a challenge, but you know, we should learn to embrace our challenges in life. Embrace the struggle. Embrace a hump. Don't look at it like it's a hump. I can't get over it. Life sucks. What am I going to do? Oh, the world's against me. World hates men, loves women, and when they like, shut the hell up and take care of your business. You know, and something like quitting weed, it shouldn't be a hard thing. Like I said, I know it can be a hard thing because, like, again, I struggled with it for a while. I had a urge to quit years before I actually just completely put it down. But as men, we've gotten so accustomed to just pacify ourselves like women and not embrace, again, anxiety, depression, and just take these things as just something that we're just plagued with. No, change it. Let's quit looking for outside sources to help us get through it. You know, again, there are things like porn that I think personally has caused us to have poor relationship skills, and we're not able to talk to girls, we're not able to find significant others because we're so accustomed to just getting out that dopamine, getting out our orgasm. So there's no need to actually search a girl out, which causing us to not live up to our full potential and find our mate. We're playing video games because we're looking for these obstacles. We're looking for this excitement, these challenges. But with games, there's no real consequences. There really is no real, it's all make-believe. So we get this dopamine by just doing a play challenge and not actually challenging ourselves in our real life. And we just, play games to help ourselves get out of what we think is helping us. And I will say that that's not good for us, man. So how do we change? How do we become this high value man? And again, this man who is trying to be a good father, trying to be a good husband, trying to excel in his job, whether he's working for somebody or you're trying to start your own business. How do we get to that point if we are depending on weed every day? As men, we don't want to depend on anything but God. We shouldn't depend on a joint to help us get through our day. We should pray to our God. And I don't want to get into a spiritual conversation, but we're talking about dependence. That's the only thing we should depend on: God and ourselves. Not weed, not alcohol, not video games, not porn. So if you are struggling with that, try to go a day without doing it. Try to say, okay, can I go the complete day without smoking weed? If you can go one day without it, you can go 30 days without it. If you can go 3 days, you can go a year without it. And it's not physically dependent. You can stop and be okay. So why not stop? Embrace a challenge. Become the ultimate you that you know that you can be. Because we all can be better versions of ourselves. And a better version of ourselves is not a guy who sits on the couch all day and smokes weed. Okay, you say, I don't smoke weed on the couch. Okay, it's not a guy who smokes a blunt going to work. It's not a guy who smokes a blunt on his lunch break just to be able to take a phone call. Let's learn how to be controlled. Let's learn how to control our mind, control our emotions, control our own brain without depending on weed to do that for us. So guys, if you have something to add to this, if you feel like, I'm missing something, comment below. Let me know. Until next time, guys, like, subscribe, share. Again, most importantly, comment below. I would like to continue this conversation with you guys. Girls, if you have witnessed something with your significant other, your brother, your father, whoever, what do you feel about it? Until next time, guys, we're all in this together. Peace. What's up, guys? This is Chaz and Charlie, and today I want to discuss on our walk how quitting weed saved me $20,000. So I first want to start, of course, we are in a time where inflation is extremely high. I know wherever you are, you're probably going through some money woes, some changes in your budget. I know for me personally, I'm renting. In the past 2 years, my rent has went up like almost $600. And I stay in Memphis, which is particularly on the more affordable places or cities to stay in. But if it's happening here, I can imagine it's happening everywhere else. But yeah, it's things are getting extremely tight. So if you're still smoking weed, I'm sure you know it's gotten quite expensive. Where you used to cut, a 20 bag could last you a week. I guess depends on how much you smoke. A 20 could last you a whole week. Now that probably lasts you a day or so, or whatever you smoke. I'm sure you pay. Your consumption and price has went up over the years. So you may be asking, okay, how did quitting weed save you $20,000? Okay, while I was smoking, I really only imagined myself. I always said, okay, by the time I'm by the age of 50 or 45, I say 45, I'm gonna kick my habit of smoking. So I did stop by the age of 35. But let's say I stick to my original time frame of saying, okay, once I get to the age of 20, the age of 50, 45 years old, then I'll stop. Okay, so I did some brief calculations on like how much I actually spent on weed every week. So I would say a good average was about $40 per week. So, okay, $40 per week times 4 in a month, it is $160. There's my son way up there. He's walking home from college. Hold on. Do you think it's time for you to quit cannabis? Well, I encourage you to make that transition to a new life, free from the chains of weed addiction. It's up to you to make that change, but sometimes we may need a little guided help. So I created a 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. This journal helps you go through a 30-day process to create a new life. I am a strong believer of people helping themselves, but without being told what to do like a child. But we do need to be steered in the right direction sometimes. Each day focuses on a thought or idea for that day and prompts you to write down your own thoughts and your own reasons. This will help you understand yourself and your addiction. By the end of the 30 days, you will see a clear path on how to create a new life of marijuana sobriety. If you need the motivation to take control like I did, please visit Amazon to purchase the 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. Your future self will thank you. Okay, so on average, I'm spending $160 a week. $160 a month. So in a year's time, that's $1,920. Okay, let's say I did not quit until my projected age, say 45, 50. If it was 45, 10 years, I would have spent $19,200 on marijuana. And to some people, they may say, that's not a lot of money. That's not a lot. But I think in times of inflation, or right now, I mean, maybe, I guess if you're rich, but the majority of Americans are not rich. They say the majority of Americans don't have $1,000 saved. So if you ask me, I think most people could benefit from 20 grand in a 10-year time frame. But think about what you can do with that money versus spending it on weed. Okay, let's say you're trying to save for a home. Let's say you're 25. You want to buy a home by the time you're 35. If you take that amount that you're spending on weed and just put it in a high yield savings account and just let it build up for 10 years, you can, I mean, maybe you won't have a down payment for a home, seeing that everything is going up, but you will have a pretty good head start on just using what you spend on weed and applying it towards your future. And I do know people probably spend more than $40 a week on weed, especially if you stay in one of those legal states where you're buying it from dispensaries, which I know they can get very or quite expensive. Okay, let's think of it as a short-term thing. Let's say, okay, if you just go back a year, okay, I've saved that amount. I have $2 grand in the bank. Think about a vacation. You can go on a pretty decent vacation. I mean, not too far from home. If you're not like actually flying out 2-3 hours away, a nice 5 to 7 day vacation that you could use for that money that you've saved within a year. And think about the memories that actually last for a long period of time. You don't, in a year's time, you don't think about every time you've smoked weed. I mean, that's just pretty much, you've got used to just having a habit or a ritual of actually smoking. But a vacation with your wife, a vacation with your kids, those are memories that last with you for a long period of time. Of course, I remember vacations that me and my wife went on 10, 12 years ago that last until we're old in age. So you can take that small amount and apply it towards a more positive aspect of your life. And, it's not just going on weed. People may say, okay, well, I'm used to spending that amount of money on weed. It's not a big deal. It's just $40 a week. What's the big deal? Well, that's a big deal if you smoke for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And just like rent is going up, weed is going to go up as well. Believe me, what $40 got me 10, 15 years ago is not the same amount that it gets me today or got me a year or two ago. So it's going to only get more expensive unless you cut back your use. It's only going to get more expensive. Let's say if you spend like $160 a week, which that's the case in some people's lives on how much they smoke, and like I said, depending on where they live, you're spending almost $3 grand a year just on weed. That's a lot of money that can go towards another purpose, something better in life. When you are quitting, if you are on a journey of quitting weed, I always suggest that you trade out weed for another hobby. Occupy your time, occupy your mind with something else, something new, a new business venture, a new hobby. That'll make the process much easier. But if it's something new that you haven't wanted to do in a long time, you might say, well, I don't have the money to do that. Okay, if you take that money that you're using on weed and apply it to your new goal, hey, you have the money. And if we just apply these long-term goals in our life and not just look for this immediate high and just say, I'm going to save my money, save this, not get this instant gratification that, again, once you smoke and you get high, and you're like, okay, when am I going to smoke next? I'm going to get my next package. You are never fulfilled buying weed. You're just going to want to buy more. You just get in the habit of buying it every week. And the more you smoke, the less effects it have. The more you smoke, the stronger dose you need to get high, the more you need to be satiated. It's going to be a never ending thing. So why not kick the habit and trade it for something that's more substantial in life? And we may think of 10 years as a long period of time. It's not. I would think if I had quit weed 10 years ago and saved that amount. And there were times in my life where I smoked more than $40 a week. Some days I would buy an ounce every week. So I think if I quit 10 years ago, the amount of money I would have now. They always say, we always feel like, oh, if I had did this 10 years ago, or did this 5 years ago, or did this in the past, now it's too late. It's never too late. The next best time to do something is now. So maybe you have wasted 10 years of your life. Okay, let's think of the next 10 years. If you stop now, put that money towards another goal. Just think about what momentum you can gain. And again, not saying, say if you are trying to buy a house, that 20 grand might not be the full down payment for your home, but just cutting back that habit will give you a 20,000 head start, and that'll give you the momentum to know that you can do it in other areas of your life. Again, we are in times of inflation. Times are hard, and it's only going to get worse. They say that this year for Halloween, Americans spent $4 billion on Halloween stuff. It was 27 million or 2.7. Some millions went on just pet costumes alone. I would never buy Charlie a pet costume. That's stupid. But whatever. So we're wasting money, and this is not a time for us to be wasting money. And I do agree that inflation, I don't like the idea that inflation is new. We always go through inflation. Things always are going up. They're never going down. But at this, we haven't seen it go up at this rate in many of our lifetimes. And we don't have, we can't afford now to have these useless habits. If you smoke weed for 5 years, you know how it is to get high. You know how it feels. Let's grow up. And people are free to do what they want to do. This is America. Not saying you have to. You can do whatever you want to do, but is it really benefiting you? My mother, I've said, she still smokes. She buys a lot of weed. She buys 40 to 60 per week. She has no intention of stopping. That's not, and she's free to do what she wants to do. And she's grown. Of course she's grown. But are you being the best person you can be? She know how it feels to get high. Why not take that money and do something better? You've been there. You've done that. You've smoked. You've been high for forever. Let's go above that and be a better version of ourselves. And in America, where we live, sometimes you need some money to be a better version of yourself. So why not kick the habit and use that money towards a better goal? So again, me quitting weed has saved me over $20,000, and I was on a saving budget towards the end of my my weed addiction. But once I quit, I start saving a lot more. Because also now with weed, you're buying, depending on what you smoke, you're buying bongs, you're buying cigars, you're buying papers. In turn, if you're high, you're buying more food, more fast food, more junk food. You're spending more than just weed itself. Even when let's say I smoke cigars, so on top of that 40 a week, let's say I'm buying 2 packs of cigars. That's between $2 and $5 a week. That might not seem like a lot, but if you add it up for 10 plus years, you're spending hundreds on just cigars alone. So by quitting weed, you're going to save money. So in a time of inflation right now, it's the best time to save every dollar you can save for the future. So what do you guys feel? Do you feel like it's not a big deal? Do you feel like, are you inspired to quit to save some money? Are you saying 20 grand is not a lot? 2 grand a year is not really a big amount? What do you feel? Like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would like to know what you feel on the topic. Until next time, guys, remember, we are all in this together. Peace. What's up, guys? This is Chaz, Charlie. So today's topic is, what about your friends that still smoke weed? What about your friends? I ain't gonna stand around. I ain't gonna let you down again. Okay, so you're on your journey, you're quitting weed, but you still have a friend circle that still smokes weed. And this is a big dilemma when you come in a time in your life where you want to change. You're progressing as a person, but the people around you still smoke weed. Do you let them go? Do you still be friends? What do you do? So first off, I would say if we are on a personal journey of growth, we should never judge it, or we should never do things based on what our friends are doing or based on what our friends are not doing. I mean, unless you are a 16-year-old girl in high school, we should be to the point where we're doing things based on our own decisions, our own mind, our own thoughts, and not still being guided by peer pressure, if you will. So first you have some friends, you quit smoking, and I will say naturally, well, I would pose the question, is weed the only thing that ties you and your friend together? When you quit smoking, are they demonizing you for quitting smoking? Are they like, are you a weirdo? Are you weird? Are you lame? Are you boring now? You know, a true friend shouldn't judge you based on your personal growth. And also, as the journey of becoming an adult, becoming your own person, I mean, we do change. We do have the option to change ourselves and not stay the same in our lives. So, a true friend should respect that. He or she should know that, you know, as years come, this person may change, values change, interests change, hobbies change, mindsets change, values change. This just comes with living life. And your friend should be probably the most less judgmental person around you if they are a true friend. So, I thought he was going to poop. So I would say, if you are on your personal journey of quitting weed, you should not be guided about what your friends think or what your friends are doing. You may also feel like, I can't hang around my friends because they still smoke weed. I got kind of mixed. I got two sides of it. Okay, so I do think if you are quitting weed and your friends are still smoking, you shouldn't be hanging around with them all day, every day. Personally, my best friend, we're now in our mid-30s, over the hill, going towards our later 30s. And there was a point in my life where it would consist of us hanging out all day, smoking weed all day, going to other friends' houses, smoking out, getting some snacks, getting some munchies, getting some food, and just having a grand old ball. Okay, but when you get older, you get more serious jobs, you get spouses, you get children, you don't have time to smoke weed over random people's houses all day. Well, my best friend still might do that, which I would find that quite, I couldn't imagine still like going over people's houses all day just smoking weed. So if your friend is one of those types where they're just consumed with doing things you were doing in your early 20s, in your teens, no, you should not be hanging out with them all day, every day, if you're on a journey of trying to quit weed, trying to better yourself. I think naturally, if you actually are serious about quitting weed, you're probably serious about other areas in your life as well, and you probably don't want to hang with them all day, every day. But on the other side of this, okay, do you just stop talking to your friend altogether? I would say no to that as well, because the ultimate goal of quitting weed is that although we shouldn't put ourselves in positions to backtrack or to relapse, we should get to a mindset where I can be around weed, I can smell weed, and it still not affect my decision to smoke. I can see a blunt and be like, okay, good for you, I won't partake. So, hold on, guys. Okay, so we should get to a point where if we're around weed, but we don't have to smoke, where we have a strong enough mental capacity to handle being in the presence of it and not being led to actually partake like our old selves. So, if you do hang out with your friend or you do catch up on old times and they decide to fire a blunt up, fire a joint up, that don't miss out on your friendship because you just don't want to. You don't miss out on your friendship because you're judging them based on what they're still doing. I would like for you to have a strong enough mind to where you can be around that every now and then and still not partake. Even if you want to partake, if you're comfortable with knowing I can smoke once, twice a year and not pick up a habit again, more power to you. But in most cases, when people fell into weed addiction, we know we can't just smoke a blunt one day and, not fall back into the cycle of addiction. So I would say my third stance about it is weed the only thing that ties you and your friend together still? And if so, that's probably a flaw in you guys' friendship. Friendship should be based on common bonds, common interests, a general respect for one another, memories you guys have built up over the years. And if you stop smoking weed and y'all don't have anything in common, then you probably didn't have a strong enough friendship to begin with. And also, maybe it's for the better. We also feel we're in an age where now people don't want to grow up. We don't want to be adults. We don't want to progress as human beings. So we still feel like we should have friends, our same high school friends, our whole life. And maybe some people, and maybe I have a biased opinion on the idea of friends. I have a family. I have children. I don't have time for friends. I do not have time for friends. You know, if you want to stop by every now and then, say, hey, how you doing? I personally don't need friends to get by life. Like, I have enough on my plate with my career, my family. I have enough on my plate to occupy my time. I don't think grown adults just need this weekly entertainment of friends. Learn to be content with yourself. You know, it's
Do you think it's time for you to quit cannabis? Well, I encourage you to make that transition to a new life, free from the chains of weed addiction. It's up to you to make that change, but sometimes we may need a little guided help. So I created a 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. This journal helps you go through a 30-day process to create a new life. I am a strong believer of people helping themselves, but without being told what to do like a child. But we do need to be steered in the right direction sometimes. Each day focuses on a thought or idea for that day and prompts you to write down your own thoughts and your own reasons. This will help you understand yourself and your addiction. By the end of the 30 days, you will see a clear path on how to create a new life of marijuana sobriety. If you need the motivation to take control like I did, please visit Amazon to purchase the 30-day guided journal to quit cannabis. Your future self will thank you.
And not saying you can't have friends, but if you don't see a friend for a month or 2 or 3 or 4 or talk to them, it's no big deal. And if you don't have enough going on in your life to where you don't have other things occupying it and you are an adult, then I would suggest you find a hobby. Okay, let's say you are a person who you do strive on friendship, you do strive on community. Find a new group of friends that are going through the same struggle or the same journey as you. From this channel to other channels to Facebook groups, there are many groups and organizations that are dedicated to people who are on the same journey of trying to quit weed. Specifically, you know, use social media what it's for to connect with these people that do have like values, that are going through the same thing that you're going through. Because a lot of times we'll feel like if we are on this journey alone by ourselves and our friends are still smoking, our family is still smoking, you know, everyone around me is still smoking, it's becoming more acceptable on TV, maybe you feel like you are alone. But there are many people out here going through the same struggle that you are. So use social media for what it's for. Find like-minded people. Find new friends that you can connect on this level to where you do have a sense of community. So, I mean, you can find some new friends that are on your same journey as you. Your friend also should respect where you are in life. Again, if it's a true friend and y'all are bounded by more things than just weed, they should understand that you are at a different point in life. You know, you can still be best friends and not see eye to eye on every single thing. Again, my best friend, which I still consider my best friend, we don't talk every day. We don't talk quite frequently. But we can still see each other, pick back up, laugh. But we just can't hang out on a daily basis. Right before I quit, he was really my last connection to weed because I had stopped going to random weed men and I would just buy my weed from him. So he was like my last connection to still being tied to weed. And I was, you know, like, you know, if I quit smoking, we kind of like, we'll never really see each other. He won't really want to come around and hang out because he feel like, you know, Joe Chaz is boring. His house is boring. But I think if you're quitting weed, it's more changing than you just quitting weed. You probably do have other areas in your life that you are improving in and a person who wants to be stuck in the same cycle of smoking weed all day, they probably have other areas in their life too that they're not dealing with. So it for me and my friend, it was more than just weed. Again, he likes to go to the club still. He hangs out all the time. He goes from woman to woman. He's not really being the best father he can be. We just have different values at this point of our life in a lot of areas besides weed. And weed was something that was still just holding our relationship on by a thread. So if you do have a friend, you have friends that are still smoking, I would say do not let your decision be shaped by what they're doing. Be your own person. Be an adult. You know, what are you gonna ignore your progression in life, ignore your opportunity because you're afraid of what your friend may feel or what your friend may think? Like, let's grow up. Let's be an adult. We're not in high school anymore. So, but the same token, don't be an asshole to your friend. Don't be like, oh, you smoke weed, you can't. Then I can still talk to him and laugh and joke. We don't even have to talk about weed. Like, I quit, and what's been going on? How's your kids doing? How's this? Remember when this happened? I mean, we don't have to talk about weed. And if your friend is using that, if he's constantly or she's constantly bringing up you not smoking weed, and that's an issue, then, you know, maybe you have an issue. But don't go around your friends and be like, oh, I don't smoke weed, and you guys still do that, and I'm this and I'm that. You know, don't be an asshole yourself. But embrace a new journey in your life. And a lot of times when we progress in life, you get more lonely. You lose friends. Just understand that, you know, friends aren't. You don't keep the same friends all stages in your life. There are certain people that are there in your life for certain and particular seasons, and be content with, you know, things change, people change, you change. Hopefully you are changing, because we all should be evolving on a daily basis. If we're not trying to evolve as a person, if we're not trying to be a better person, then, you know, your life is stagnant, and a stagnant life is a shitty life. So evolve, and don't let your friends persuade you if they're not evolving. So that's what I would say about friends who still smoke weed. So what do you guys feel? Do you find it difficult to quit because you do have friends? Do you find it difficult to still hang out with them? Do you find it easy? Do you be like, you know, they don't affect me here or there? I'd like to know what you feel. So guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. And until next time, guys, remember, we are all in this together. What's up, guys? This is Chaz and Charlie. And today, I want to discuss smoking weed as a teenager. So I started my relationship with weed when I was a teenager, when I was 16 years old. In fact, it was my 16th birthday that I smoked my first blunt. And as teens, as children, society, you know, says that we can have fun in our teen years. Usually in movies and TV, it's portrayed that children in high school, that's your time, your starting time to hang out, to party, to experiment with drugs, experiment with cigarettes, experiment with drinking. And although it may seem like fun and games, these are pretty pivotal moments in our lives, and actually a big part of when we actually pick up our habits and addictions that sometimes follow us into our adult lives. Now, specifically with weed, they did advise that, well, I've heard from various studies that a big part of weed users that do become addicted start smoking when they are teenagers. And a big part of that is because our brains are still developing. We think that because we are pretty much, we think we're through growing when we're 16, or we're pretty much a developed human being, a developed adult, but actually our brains are still functioning and still, well, not functioning, still developing, and we're still in the process of becoming a different person, or not a different person, but maybe the most becoming an adult version of ourselves. The same brain that we have at 16 is not the same brain we have at 25. So when we're 15, 16, our brains are still developing, and when we mess with our neurons, with our chemicals, and introduce weed and cigarettes, it actually gives us a higher chance of becoming addicted or keeping this habit throughout our adult years. And it starts out pretty harmless. I mean, nobody smokes their first blunt is addicted. Maybe some are, but it was a gradual increase. I started off smoking on weekends. Then it was possibly every other weekend. Then it became every other few days. And by the time I was 18, it was an everyday thing. And the first time you get high, it's nothing like when you start smoking on a regular basis. I remember the first time I got high, like real high, we smoked out in a car, which is so juvenile, and we actually pulled into a abandoned home and smoked in the driveway. And then we got so high that, and then some police came and actually tried to, they didn't arrest us, but they put their spotlight on, and I could barely like pull out of the actual driveway. But we thought it was quite funny, and it was hilarious, and this memory, I couldn't imagine doing anything like that now. Obviously, I was a kid and stupid. But the first experience of getting real high is quite different than what it comes to when you smoke on a regular basis. And I often wonder, are we still chasing that same high? Because you know, with addiction, they'll say that the whole point of continuing addiction is trying to get that first high that you got when you first smoked, or when you first got that euphoric feeling. I can't say I was searching for that first high, because I couldn't actually do anything when I got that high. And I was pretty much immobile and couldn't dare actually go out in public or to work or something like that. But I can't say I was searching when I was 25 or 26, still wanting that same high I got when I was 16. I was cool with the high I was getting at that point. But this channel, again, I'm not against weed. I think people see these videos and they think that I'm just against any consumption of weed, and weed is bad, and don't smoke, don't ever smoke, it's the demon's plant. I don't feel that way. I think weed is a good alternative compared to other medicines. But I do think when we use it ignorantly and not use it correctly in the right application, we run the risk of falling into addiction and use it recreationally, which is just not good for us. Although they'll say that it's better than drinking or being an alcoholic. Yeah, true. But if you smoke for 15, 20 years, I mean, there are some side effects. It might not be as severe as you smoking weed, but there are some side effects to that. So when we take on this habit in our young age, when we're 16, when our minds are still developing, we're just dealing with something that we don't have the correct knowledge about. And it becomes harder to actually quit when we get into our 20s or our 30s and our 40s. And this thing has pretty much been ingrained in our mind. And I think weed did affect me in high school as far as making me less motivated in certain activities, specifically track. I ran track from 6th grade up into 12th grade. I started smoking weed in 12th grade. And although I'm not going to fully say I consciously quit track for weed, or like I found weed and the hell with track, but I kind of did. Once I started smoking, I started hanging out. I think the whole hanging out thing played a part too, but when I started hanging out, weed was definitely involved. And let's be honest, you can't be your best in something like track or something like running, an endurance sport, and smoke weed. That's just, you just can't be your best while you're smoking weed. So that definitely affected my track career. And by the end of it, I pretty much quit track. I always thought I would go to college on a track scholarship because I did live and breathe track for about 3 to 4 years of my preteen up into my teens. And once I just started hanging out and started smoking weed and drinking, I pretty much put it on the back burner. And I wasn't the best. I started losing and said, what the hell? I'm not going on to college on a scholarship anyway, which I should have, seeing that I have $100,000 in student loans. I perhaps should have been trying to run to get some free school money, but that's beside the point. And also with smoking as a teen, now I feel like now it's more of an issue because we have been introduced to edibles. And I've seen some news articles that more teens or even preteens as young as 12 years old are starting to smoke weed earlier. Of course, because, with smoking, that comes with you having to actually smoke and sneak around and hide the smoke and hide the smell. So it's a lot harder to smoke a joint or smoke weed. But in the case of edibles, you just eat a cookie, eat a gummy, no smell, nobody really knows. So teens are indulging in weed at an earlier age. And the misconception is edibles are a safer form of weed consumption. Hold on. Okay, the idea that weed in edible forms is safer than smoking. Okay, anything that you smoke, of course, is more harmful because you're smoking in fumes and it's tobacco and cigars, nicotine, like that. But edibles they also have their drawbacks because you have kids that are 12 that are starting to get high with edibles at a much younger age. So if you're getting high at 16 or 17 or 18 can be crucial to you forming an addiction habit later in life. How do you think, obviously your brain is still forming at 12. How does a 12, a 13, or 14-year-old handle taking in weed at that young of age. So it is this rise of kids actually using cannabis at a much younger age. And a part of that is due, not only due to laws, but due to edibles. It's easier to hide. Said you can't smell it. There's no, it's just easier to consume cannabis. So I think edibles are actually bad for teens because they are causing kids to smoke at a younger age. So, lasting thoughts. Kids should not smoke weed in high school because our brains are not fully formed. We're still learning. We're still finding out about ourselves. We shouldn't introduce something that's messing with our brain function at that age. I think Joe Rogan, who's an advocate for weed, but I do respect Joe for saying he didn't start smoking weed until he was like in his mid-20s. So I think if you let your brain fully form and then you decide to actually use cannabis, you have a lesser chance of falling to an addiction or the drug actually affecting your brain development. So just like things like sex, like alcohol, all these things are easier to handle if we're dealing with them with a fully adult brain that it's through growing. So what do you guys feel about this? Do you feel like it's not a big deal? Teens smoke, that it's their years to hang out, to party, to find themselves, it's not a big issue? Or you yourself have maybe started smoking when you were in your teenagers and you find it hard to quit now that you are in your 20s, in your 30s, or so on. For me personally, I of course, I started at 16. I could not quit until I was 35. So it took me damn near 20 years to let the ganja go. So I'm curious to know what you guys feel below. Until next time, guys, please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, we are all in this together. Bye. What's up, guys? This is Chaz and Charlie. And today I want to discuss depression after quitting weed. So this is a pretty big topic when it comes to quitting weed, or one of the big withdrawal symptoms is depression. Many people feel like once they quit, they will suffer through being depressed or go through down feelings. And I am here to say that depression was probably there before you quit weed. First, I would ask, what are you depressed about? Are you depressed about just the idea of quitting weed or the idea of not smoking anymore? Do you get sad thinking about just not doing something that you're used to doing? Or are you depressed about a particular issue that's going on in your life and weed just helps you get through that? In many cases, it's the second choice. It's you're depressed about something else and weed just help you get through it. So once you quit smoking, then you are forced to face that problem head on without any filter, without any haze, without any sedation. And sometimes that may be scary or intimidating. So I always say weed does not cure depression, it just helps mask it. So again, if you're depressed after you quit weed, you were probably depressed when you were smoking weed. So you just use weed to again mask that depression. So how do we get over depression or get out of the slump once we quit weed? First, let's identify why are we depressed. If we're depressed just because we don't smoke anymore, I mean that's pretty actually. Hold on, guys. Okay, so are we depressed because we are not smoking weed anymore? That's easier to get over. Of course, when you stop smoking, you're used to doing something for a long period of time. Once you stop, you have to learn new habits or learn not to fall into old habits. And the good thing about that is after about 30 days of continuous non-use of weed, you'll kind of get over that initial feeling of not being able to smoke weed. So I really wouldn't call that depression. That's more sadness. And I watched a podcast with Jimmy Carr, and he said an interesting thing about depression, and basically a lot of us misdiagnosing depression for sadness. Depression is more of a indebted thing. It is more of an issue as far as neurological, whereas a lot of times we're just sad about something and we kind of use them interchangeably, but they're kind of not the same. And I think because they say it's a stigma with depression, but depression has kind of become like almost a stylish thing to say. Whereas most people, especially men, nobody wants to admit they're just sad about something or sad about their life. If you're overweight, or if you can't find a girlfriend or can't find a boyfriend, or you feel shitty about your life and where you are professionally, nobody wants to be like, I'm sad because of this. It's easier to just say, I have depression. So let's first find out whether it's actual depression or just sadness about a particular issue. So we've discovered if it's just about not smoking weed, that's easy. Don't smoke for 30 days. Eventually your brain will reset itself. Okay, here's the second thing. If you are depressed about a particular topic, again, if you're depressed about something not in relation to weed himself, weed never cured your depression. It just helped you throw a blanket over it. So now that we don't smoke weed anymore, it may initially seem hard because, you're again faced with this issue without the veil. But I think one of the bad things about weed that we don't discuss is we say weed helps us through problems, but weed a lot of times allows us to mask problems and not allow us to address them. We can feel bad about something and then smoke and then say, it's not that big a deal. It's, the sky's nice, sky's blue, let's get some good to eat. Tomorrow's a new day. And we never actually address the issue. In turn, we stay depressed, or we stay feeling the same way about the issue when we're not smoking. So once we quit smoking, we can now have clear, open eyes to address the issue. So again, once we've quit smoking, you're depressed. What are you depressed about? Let's identify that. And that sounds so simple, but a lot of people don't do that. We are so social media-fied that we're so out of touch with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our feelings. We use weed, we use music, we use social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, anything to help us block ourselves from our own thoughts and our own mind. But a big part of overcoming weed addiction and getting back into our more functional self, we have to be in control of our thoughts, know why we think certain things, and if it's not benefiting us, we know how to address them. So let's say, okay, I'm depressed about where I am professionally. I feel like my job sucks. I thought I would be here by 25. I'm not. Life sucks. Okay, so you don't smoke weed anymore. So to get over this depression, first we admit or identify what's actually giving us depression, and then we can think of ways to actually overcome that. Okay, you don't like your job, find a new one. Go back to school. educate yourself and find out where you actually want to be. Where do you see yourself? It may turn from depression to more of an exciting adventure, because now you've discovered why you're depressed, how you can solve it, and let's actually start this process of turning our life around, of finding a new job, finding a new profession, doing something that we thought we couldn't do, but now that we don't smoke weed and we're not under haze, we know how we can achieve this, how we can address this, and eventually the depression will go away or become less and less of an issue. A Beautiful Mind is a good movie, and I think one of the best scenes is at the end. In short, Beautiful Mind, he was a very smart guy, but he went through a lot of depression and schizophrenia and issues, had a lot of mental issues. But anyway, it was a little girl that came to him. It was multiple people that came to him that he was basically seeing that weren't actually there. Of course, if that's in real life, it's kind of an issue. But at the end, the guy asked him, how's it gotten? Is it better now? And he was like, he looked up and the people were still there, but he learned how to handle it a lot better. So I think with depression, we think, things are going to go away automatically, but it's more so learning how to control our emotions, control our thoughts, and they may not go away immediately. But let's say if you're depressed about something 75% of the time, okay, you can get to a point where it only affects you about 10% of the time, and that's a lot better than the 75%. So again, let's find out why we're depressed. And again, is it depression or is it sadness? Maybe we're not actually depressed about something, we just sad about something we can change. And the good thing about being sad about something, in most cases, you can change it. You can either change your circumstances, or you can either change your mindset, or change both at the same time. So in turn, this is an issue that you can solve. So don't look at it like quitting weed. The automatic symptom is I'm depressed. Again, what are you depressed about? In most cases, you're not depressed about just not smoking weed. And if you are, that's simple. You'll get over it in about 30 days. But with the issue, if it's multiple issues, find out what they are. Find out what the root cause is. Because again, things like weed, things like alcohol, TV, movies, entertainment, all these things just help us temporarily escape from our real issues. And if we don't address these things and don't address the root cause of them, they will continue to be an issue in your life. So being sad about something is normal. We are a very fickle people. We are very we get unpleased very quickly. We can achieve something in 5 minutes. Like, oh, well, what about this? I think that just comes with being a human in today's society when we have all these options. But when we take away the options and just address the thoughts in our mind, we can better solve our issues internally versus looking for all these outside sources. Maybe you need to talk these things out with somebody. There's many online services like BetterHelp, therapy. I know therapy is a big thing. I'm not a number one fan of therapy, because I think therapists just are in business to tell you something, to keep you coming back. If they taught you how to solve your problems, you can probably be done in a few sessions, and in turn they wouldn't make a lot of money. So talk to somebody that's close to you, that's in your life. Get things off your chest. But importantly, talk to yourself. Be honest with yourself. A lot of things we're depressed about, we don't like to admit to ourselves because we feel bad about it. So talk things out. Let's not sweep things under the rug. That's what breeds depression or sadness. So if you're on your journey, you're quitting weed, you're saying I'm depressed, I'm sad, find out what you're depressed about, find out what you're sad about, and let's think of ways that we can actually solve it or change our mindset or change our circumstances. So are you right now on a journey? Have you quit weed and you're sad? What ways have you learned to cope with depression, cope with anxiety? Which anxiety is I would say that's another category. I'll discuss that in another walk. But what ways have you used to cope with your depressed state now that you don't smoke weed anymore? Until next time, guys, please like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would like to know what you feel, what you're going through. Until next time, guys, we're all in this together. What's up, guys? It's Chaz, Charlie, on this breezy fall-looking day. So, if you're watching this video, you're probably asking, should I quit weed? How do I quit weed? First off, if you're watching this video and you probably have been contemplating if you should quit smoking weed or not. So I will say, if you're watching this, you probably should. So how do we do that? It differs from person to person, but these are steps that I took that you can take that may help you on your journey if you're trying to quit weed. So, number one, I would ask, why do you smoke weed? Find out your motivation on why you have been smoking weed for, I take it, a long period of time. Are you just smoking because you're used to the habit? Are you smoking to mask a deeper issue going on in your life? Do you smoke because the people around you smoke and you're just accustomed to doing it? Do you smoke just because you just simply like how weed makes you feel? Whatever it may be, find out exactly why you are smoking, why you have been continuing to smoke, and you can't just quit. Although it seems simple, it seems self-explanatory, probably many of us that has been smoking for a long period of time has never actually asked that question to ourselves in our head. Because we do a lot of things simply either by habit or by different trauma that may have happened. Whatever it may be, a lot of times we're doing things and not knowing the true reason or motivation behind what we're actually doing. So I'm sorry for the wind if it's so windy, because it's extremely windy out here. So find out why you smoke, why you continue to smoke. Then I would come up with a list of pros and cons of quitting weed. So take out a piece of notebook paper. I mean, you can use your smartphone. I think once you write things down, I'm an old-fashioned type of guy. I feel like writing things down helps you. It helps you fully understand something. Anyway, so get out sheet of paper, write cons of quitting weed, pros of quitting weed. Come up with a list. What are some reasons some good reasons on why you should quit? What are some bad reasons on why you should quit? And this will give us a clear understanding, I guess a better system of really clarifying whether we need to quit or not. Maybe you don't have many cons of quitting weed. Maybe you don't have many pros. Maybe I'm going to say, if you're watching this video, you want to quit, you probably have more cons than pros. But hey, you don't know until you actually write these things out. So find out what are the pros, what have the cons, compare them, weigh your options. Third thing, find out how much you spend on weed. Many of us are not aware how much money we just spend weekly, monthly, yearly on marijuana. Weed, as I've said in the past, is quite expensive. It's very expensive, and depending on how much you smoke, if you smoke every day, you spend a lot of money on weed. So find out how much you spend. I would come up with a daily budget or weekly budget, multiply it by 56 if it's every week, to find out how much you spend on a yearly basis. I guarantee you, once you really put the paper and know where your money is going, you're gonna say, shit, I spend too much money on weed. Fourth thing I would say, think of a hobby or a venture that you've been wanting to do, you have not done for a long period of time. I want you to think of something you can replace weed with. A lot of times when we quit weed, we'll fall off the bandwagon because we look at it like, oh, you're giving up something. But think about replacing weed with something that you've been wanting to do for a long time. Like I said, a hobby, a venture. You want to go back to school. You want to start a business. What you want to get in shape. You want to go hiking, do mountain climbing, go swimming, learn karate. I actually have been wanting to learn karate for a long time now. Hold on, guys. Make this fun. Don't look at it like you're losing something, but you're gaining something. You're gaining something so much more that's going to benefit your life in a more impactful way. So find out, and as always, I know it's something that you've been wanting to do. I know it's something you've been wanting to try. You've been scared. You've been feeling like maybe that's not for me, or maybe I'm not up to it. Do it. Replace weed with something that's more functional in your life. And the fifth thing I would say is come up with a 30-day game plan. Come up with a plan for 30 days, because they say it takes about 30 days to actually retrain your system, retrain your mind, your brain. Not saying you don't have slip-ups or you won't have urges after 30 days. But if you do something continuous for 30 days, you're more than capable of continuing that thing or continuing not to do that thing throughout your lifetime. So come up with a plan. You may not feel ready. It may seem scary. You're like, for 30 days, I'm not going to smoke weed. And take it day by day. And I guarantee you, if you stick to it for 30 days, on day 31, you're going to have built up enough confidence in yourself to where I know you can continue on your journey and completely kick weed out of your life. So take those steps, guys. And also, I do have a 30-day guided journal on Amazon, because I don't honestly think people go to rehab for weed. I hate when people say that weed is not addictive and just quit. I know weed is addictive. Anybody who says that is a dumbass, or they're not aware. But I do think it's something that we can quit on our own. I don't think we should spend thousands of bucks on rehab to kick a weed habit. We could do that ourselves, and I think if we actually do it ourselves, we have a better chance of it actually sticking. So rather than going to rehab, I did come up with this 30-day guided journal, which takes you day by day for 30 days, gives you different concepts, ideas to think of on a daily basis that'll help you on that 30-day journey. So that is on Amazon. The link is in the description below. But again, if somebody told you, you're weird for, having a weed addiction, you can just quit. I know it can be hard. If you've been smoking for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I know it's a struggle. But I know you can do it. And I don't want you to let society, because society now has kind of put weed on this pedestal and made it, because it is the lesser of drugs and alcohol. People tend to make it like, nothing's wrong with smoking weed every day, all day. But you know that no addiction is good. And if you are smoking every day and you feel like you need it to survive, to get through your day, you know it's time for you to stop. You know it's time for a change in life. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video to this point, I know it's in you. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. So if you're already on, these leaves are so loud. If you're already on your journey, guys, comment below. Let me know how far you are. Has it been hard? Have you got past 30 days? Are you on day 15 and it seems hard? What methods or different methods have you went through to kick your habit? Because again, as I said in the beginning, people are different. Some people can just quit cold turkey and just say, I'm not smoking anymore. It's over. Which, in a sense, we all have to quit cold turkey. In a sense, we all quit cold turkey eventually. But whether you wing yourself off or you just go from 100 to 0, or you go from 100 to 75 to 50 to 25 to 0. Different strokes, different folks. But whatever journey you're on, let me know how it's going. I'm curious to know. Again, guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. Until next time, guys, we are all in this together. What's up, guys? It's Chaz and Charlie. And today I want to talk about smoking a lot of weed during Christmas, during the holidays. And it's kind of a loaded topic. I won't get too spiritual, too religious, but something that I have noticed, and since we are in a time of Yule and happiness and holidays and Christmas, why not open the conversation? So, disclaimer, me personally, I don't celebrate Christmas for spiritual reasons. Christmas is pagan. It has nothing to do with the birth of the one they call Jesus, nothing to do with the Bible. If you just do a brief research on the history of Christmas, you will quickly find out, like I just said, it has nothing to do with Jesus, nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do with God, everything to do with Saturnalia, Yule. Like I said, research it. This is not about a Christmas. Anyways, this is not a video to go into the in-depth origins of Christmas, but like I said, briefly research it, you'll find out it has nothing to do with God and Jesus. So, I will say, even before I chose not to celebrate Christmas, because I did celebrate Christmas the majority of my life, only in the past 8 years have I chosen to not celebrate Christmas due to it being pagan. But even before that, if you notice, like, Christmas is a depressing holiday. They always say it's time for family, it's a time for joy, seasons cheer. When actually it's quite sad. First of all Christmas music is sad. If you just really concentrate on movies, all Christmas movies, it's always sad. It's always something bad going on. Even the lighthearted ones, something like Home Alone, which is a Christmas kid classic. That's sad. If it was in real life and some parents forgot their child at home and they were miles away and left the child at home for days at end without any food, without provision, because they forgot him, we would probably call CPS on them. That's a pretty sad story. But from something that lighthearted to just notice this time of year, if you happen to watch a Christmas movie, they always have a sad connotation. Something bad is always going on, and I think that is definitely on purpose. So although they portray Christmas to be this, like I said, time of joy, time of family. It really propels any type of depression you have going on in your life. A lot of times, if your mother has died or someone close to you has died in your family, it's sad to you because you're like, oh, this is my first Christmas without mom, first Christmas without dad. And you tend to focus more so on a lost loved one than who's actually there with you. The only people that Christmas should be fun to, or it probably is fun to, is children. And it probably depends on what child it is, if that's the case. I mean, you have to be from at least not the poorest family or not a neglectful family. If you're from one of those, then maybe that sucks for you too. But most adults, I think it's clear that Christmas is more sad than actually happy. So, saying all that, a lot of times when we do smoke weed, we do use weed on a consistent basis, everyday basis. We're trying to mask something. So a big reason on why people tend to abuse weed is due to anxiety, is due to depression. So in this time of holiday cheer, when all the songs are sad, when it's cold, when if you're from a not close family, if you're missing a loved one that recently died, you're probably gonna want to smoke a lot more weed to try to mask those feelings. When you're inside the house, you can't really be outside because it's cold unless you're from a state that's probably hot. But you're going to be inside, cooped up in your home, more depressed. And it kind of almost makes me think about the COVID era, how they said the idea of people being stuck in a home with their family caused depression, which I think says a lot about your personal life, a lot about your foundation, if that is the case. I think the same thing goes for Christmas. A lot of times we, like I said, act like Christmas is this nice, joyous time, when it's not. I mean, I didn't have the worst upbringing growing up, but I mean, there were a few Christmases, one in particular that was extremely bad. My parents got into this big argument. It was ruined. It lingered over into Christmas Day. And I kind of, my thoughts of Christmas, that overrides it. That particular Christmas overrides all my other thoughts of Christmas. I mean, I did get a wrestling ring that year, which I was kind of happy about, but I think the fact that my parents had this knockdown, blowout argument kind of overrid that. But I think that's the case in many of our childhoods. Now, if we're like I said, from a family who didn't have a lot, where you didn't get as many toys, or your family wasn't close, or maybe you came from a broken home or divorced parents, to where, I mean, family wasn't as a big thing, or maybe your family is close, but they argue the whole time. You know, if you get 10 members of the family together, I mean, there's a good chance people are going to argue. So we have all these different emotions involved with the holiday, which can lead to anxiety, lead to depression, which is going to cause you to most likely smoke more weed. And trust me, I don't believe any of these things are all by mishap. Besides the fact that these holidays really do bring worship to other gods, just from a more universal standpoint, these holidays are designed to make money. And people tend to buy more when they're sad. People, sorry for all the leaves. People tend to buy more when they're depressed. the more people feel insecure about something in their life, they're going to go to the stores to try to buy things to make up for that. So I think it's no coincidence that the music is sad, that the movies are sad, that they do prompt all these insecure, bad feelings, so we can go out and just buy a whole lot of shit that we forget about the next day. So if you are battling a weed addiction in this time of the holidays, be aware of what's going on around you. Be aware of what's going on through your head. A lot of times we get so stuck in Nemo cycle that we just do things by habit, by choice, just by traditions, and we don't realize why we do them and the motivation behind them. Whether it's motivation that we have in our personal lives or motivation that's going on the outside. But be aware of your feelings, your emotions, your ups, your downs in this time of the holidays, because I warn you, they are not about happiness. It's not about this family, peace, love, and joy. I mean, let's be real. Most of us, a lot of us, don't get along with our families. And you may say, well, I get along with, I mean, there are exceptions, and maybe some people do. Okay, let's say 40% of people get along with their families and 60% don't. I don't think it's that high, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, 6% people don't get along with their families. And I think there's more, because if it wasn't more, then, like I said, the idea of when COVID happened, want to send people into this spiral depression because they were in the house with their children and wives for 3 months. So Christmas prompts these same feelings, these same thoughts of depression, these same thoughts of anxiety. So in turn, you're probably going to end up smoking more weed if you are battling a weed addiction. And you're probably saying, okay, so if I'm going to be depressed, how more depressed than usual, why would I quit weed now? And truth be told, if you're looking for a reason to smoke weed, there always will be a reason. I mean, once we get out the holidays, we always find a reason to continue a habit that we don't want to quit. But if you can quit during this time, when all the odds, when all the media, when all the spirits are against you, how better can you handle your addiction when we're not in this season that really doesn't promote family, but more so supports loneliness and depression and despair? So what do you guys feel? Have you noticed you get more depressed during the holidays? Have you noticed you may smoke more weed during this time? I would like to find out. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a weirdo that I just have a doom and gloom view on life itself. I don't think so, but maybe I do. So, guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. I would definitely like to hear what you guys have to say. So until next time, guys, we are all in this together.